Hello and welcome to week 21, book 21. And this one is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. C.L. Polk is a writer who has been she's a very new writer, I believe, somewhat celebrated in science fiction. And this little novella um, won the Nebula whenever, whatever year. I don't know what year. What year was this published? Um, Published in 2022, so it must have won either 2022 or possibly 2023, depending on how those things go. Um, okay, so pretty good book. It essentially set in um, New York around the time of Prohibition, and it's an alternative New York in which magic is real, or perhaps you could say it's kind of like even maybe the Harry Potter stuff, where it's the world we live in, and magic exists, but it's under the ground, under the current, and most people are unaware it's there. Hard to say which would be the right way to take um, uh, what this book is about. Um, and what it is about is a murder mystery. People are being killed by somebody, something. Hard to say. And the main character is a woman who she has a history and a past here. And her history and her past is that it's a sexist society, and she can't be part of the group of magicians unless her brother is, or a male relative, I guess, and her brother. So her brother is, okay, and something something happens, a car wreck, that's what it is, a car wreck, and she's the only survivor, and she's not happy about that, and so she literally makes a deal with a demon to save her brother's life. And the way that that works in this universe is if you make a deal with the devil, whatever deal you make, he owns your soul in 10 years, and you automatically go to hell, which is apparently in this universe absolutely real. Okay, so that's the basic idea here. Okay, and so she gets kicked out of this group of magicians because she is now technically damned, and so the damned cannot work in this magical field. There's a religious aspect to what they do as well, obviously. Okay, and so that's the basic idea here. And somebody is going around killing people. And she has these magical abilities. She has some sensitivity to magical currents and things like that. And she's able to determine some things about what's going on. And as it turns out, the individual who is doing these horrible killings turns out to be, and this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to know this, don't watch, is going to be an angel. And now, in this universe, there are angels, which are still servants of God, and there are demons, which are former servants of God who are now working for evil. This is not a demon. That's what they thought at first. But it's an angel. And so why would an angel be doing these horrible deeds? Well, okay. Prior to the time when this story begins, the angels on earth had managed to get themselves ostracized from God. And so they couldn't go back into heaven. They were stuck on earth. They weren't demons, but they were stuck on earth. And so this angel apparently gets a demented idea that if he kills the damned, that he will get to go to heaven. And so that's what he's doing. It turns out that all the people who have been killed by the serial killer are people who have made this 10-year deal with the devil or with the demon, which means that our main character is one on the hit list. And turns out the person who hired her to do this is herself a demon. Now, the way this works is human bodies are inhabited by these spirits. And if someone is, I suppose, more vulnerable, they're more open to this kind of possession or perhaps visitation, because it varies on exactly how brutal and how complete this kind of possession is. And so what this bad angel has done is they have used the bodies of innocent, mostly young women, to commit these brutal, heinous acts, and then left those bodies afterwards. And so that's why it's difficult for anyone to know what's going on, and difficult for anyone to catch this person, because no one's done this kind of thing before. And of course, they eventually managed to solve all of this. Okay, all fine and good. What's interesting here is, first of all, if you are familiar with The Revolt of the Angels by Anatole France, he is a French writer, and he wrote this in 1914. And it is essentially a very similar kind of idea in terms of universe. And so it looks to me like C.L. Polk had some familiarity with Revolt of the Angels, and instead of rewriting that particular story, she wrote this mystery murder story into that particular universe. In Revolt of the Angels, there's a similar kind of idea of angels trying to get back into heaven, and doing so by causing some disruption on earth. But it takes very different direction, and is more of a philosophical, religious, political, and satire text than it is an adventure story. What Polk has written here is more adventure story, and not quite so connected to all the particular politics and that sort of thing. She doesn't go into the religious aspects or the political aspects of what it means for there to be a god and a creator and a demon and angels running around and all this. She doesn't really delve deeply into that. Anatole France also has his novel set in mostly in Paris. I think it's all in Paris. It's definitely in France. I think, if not all in Paris, mostly in Paris. Similar time period, though. It's about maybe 20 years before the period in this novel. So it's a similar kind of universe. And the other thing that C.L. Polk has done here is the main character is a lesbian. And it's hard to say how critical that is to the plot, except the demons and angels both like to inhabit women. And it just so happens that her lover is, in fact, inhabited by an angel, which enhances her ability to read other people's minds, I believe. Or maybe that's the angel's power, or maybe the angel's inhabiting her because she has this ability. I'm fuzzy on the exact details, but her lover can read people's minds to some extent. More an occasional thought and emotional meaning than straight script kind of thing, but can read other people's minds. And so there is some lesbian romance stuff going on, which I'm not sure what it adds or detracts. It's just there. It's not explicit. There's one or two moments where the two women go to bed or that kind of thing, but Polk doesn't. Polk doesn't go into detail. I mean, it's like 2 or 3 sentences about um, loving and caring and things like that at best. It's not any kind of a hedonistic thing. It's an interesting book. I liked it. Um, I think she made the right choice in having it be a novella. I think that was the right choice. I think that this universe is rich and can be explored more. I mean, the fact that Anatole France did an entirely different kind of story in the same kind of universe, and those of you who are familiar with his dark materials might find some resonance there as well in some of that kind of reality in which spiritual matters are real. That, of course, deals with multiple realities. This does not. So it shares some lifeblood with these other stories, but is a little bit different. But the universe is rich, but I think that she is right that this particular story did not warrant a longer treatment. However, I think it is entirely plausible that her heroine and her future adventures set in this universe could, in fact, warrant a revisit, or even some other aspects of this universe could warrant a revisit. So the universe is rich. This particular story is very interesting. And I say that she's writing novella, and to sort of push against that a little bit, there are some ambiguities, at least on a first read, of what's going on here. So, and maybe a closer read would fill in some of those details. I'm not entirely sure, but given that there are some gaps in the story, seeming some gaps in the story itself, possibly, with a certain kind of approach, this could have been turned into a full-scale novel. One thing that's for sure is this would make a very interesting um, uh, limited series or movie kind of treatment. You could, and you could go several different ways there. I mean, this could very much be a horror. This could be a thriller. This could be some kind of a procedural, like a CSI kind of thing. It really just depends on, the direction of the direction, honestly. So, yeah, I think there's some richness here, and I think it's worth reading. It's short. It's 100 and what, 25, 130 pages, 131 pages. Not too bad. So, 136 pages. Yeah, 133. Yeah. So, a decent day's read, or maybe 2 days, depending on the amount of time you have. And it's divided into 3 acts, and that's kind of clever. 5 acts, sorry. That's kind of clever the way that it's divided up, as a traditional play with 5 acts kind of thing. So there's a kind of callback to kind of a older style of organization of a narrative, which I think is fitting with the topic. So, yeah, I think it's worth a read. I do. And if you do read it, I'm curious to know, what you think. How critical is the lesbian aspect of it? Some people have called this, a great sapphic novel or something to that effect. And, I don't know. I did not find the sexuality to help or detract. I found it just to be part of what was there, part of what was this universe. So maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something more to it than just kind of a what's there kind of thing. There is no real femme fatale and that kind of thing. So even though it does have a kind of noir kind of approach, it's not fully full on noir. I mean, there's kind of sort of a femme fatale, kind of, sort of, but the main character is in a committed relationship. So, she's clearly not taken by the demon who hires her, because that's the one who kind of has the kind of, uh, achingly beautiful kind of seductress kind of approach. And the main character just has no interest because she's in a committed relationship with this other woman. So, anyway, Worth a read, and even though I did give some spoilers, there are some surprises, particularly towards the end. So I did not spoil everything, guys. There's more to read. There's more to know here than I let on. All right. Enjoy.